and I hope that it didn't only affect me, but it affected you as well, and makes you think twice. Because I thought every time I used the bathroom yesterday and used toilet paper, I was thinking we should have a bidet. We should be rinsing ourselves. Why am I wiping myself with tissue? It was a constant reminder throughout the day. And the trees that we cut down. So yesterday really affected me in a big way, and I'm hoping to contribute to the change of helping 100 million girls have something sustainable to be able to continue on with the go to school, pads or whatever have you. I have some news as far as pads are concerned, but for weather, right now it's cold. It's going to be cold. Currently it's 29 degrees. We're looking at a high of 49, low of 34, partly cloudy throughout the day. Tomorrow, high of 42, low of 24. AM clouds, PM suns, even though they said that it was supposed to snow. Thursday, high of 42, low of 27, mostly sunny throughout the day. And then I'm just going to stop giving weather. I don't know why I give weather, because I get discouraged every time when I tell you something, and then 2 days later, it's a completely different forecast. So I'm going to let them lie to you, and I'll just give you today's news. As far as traffic is concerned, if you're coming from the Braintree-Quincy split, let me tell you something. There is a tractor trailer that has jackknifed. It is jackknifed. It's on 93 South, and it is backing up traffic because, people nosy. They're trying to find out what's going on. Traffic is down to 17 miles an hour at the Braintree-Quincy split, and the further you get from that split, it's picking. No, it's not picking up because there's a freaking tractor trailer jackknifed in the middle of the road, and if you're coming from that area, get out of bed and get to where you need to go. Take some back roads, because if you've ever seen a tractor trailer in that condition, it's not going to be moved anytime soon. We have another accident. This is on the Mass Pike. This is at the ramp I-95 South. Babies, just get to where you need to be, because it's bad all over the place. Shelby County won't be getting $2 million for gutting the Voting Act's rights. The Supreme Court turned away its request for attorney's fees. People are asking to protect my vote. This may be the end of the legal road for Shelby County, Alabama. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday declined a request from the county to award it $2 million in attorney fees to cover its successful challenge to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Pause. Why are we denied $2 million to pay for these things that should have already? First of all, I shouldn't already have to take an attorney to court to beg you for rights that are my inalienable rights. Everybody has them, right? Why do I have to pay this attorney? I should have never had to go to court. Give me my $2 million so I can go ahead and pay this attorney, because now it was all in vain. I'll post it up on the Wake Up with Tayla Andre page. You can read it for yourself, because I get upset when I hear about these injustices. And if you want to talk about injustice, the biggest injustice that I've ever heard in the history of life is the fact that the grand jury indicts the anti-abortion activists. So, all of those videos came out of women like, ha, 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 yeah, we sell organs, yeah, we do this. Mind you, they're illegally profiting off of the fetuses of these babies, right? They're taking out brain matter, they're taking out arms, they're taking out livers. They're profiting off of these babies. But they're cleared. They are cleared of all wrongdoing. Where in life is this acceptable? Where's justice? Does justice exist? Is she a real thing? Because I think I'm blind to the fact that justice even exists. I don't think justice is blind. I think justice doesn't exist. It's crazy to me to think that those that are profiting illegally off of baby organs, baby brain matter, illegally profiting, selling humans, in a sense, selling humans. All charges are cleared. But you whistleblower, the fact that, soliciting organs, because in the video, he's like, yeah, I want to buy organs. I want to buy organs to catch the person who's selling the organs. And he's the one who gets indicted. He's the one that has felony charges against him. How? Where is this acceptable? And then hold on. One of the things that he was charged with was interfering with government document. What? So are you telling me this is what I got out of it? I could be wrong. I could be right. Nah, this is what I got out of it. So because I expose these things that you do, not only am I the whistleblower, but I'm also a felon. And the people that are doing the wrongdoing are martyrs. They can continue doing what they do with absolute no reprimand. Of course, we know that they were funded. Remember, the bill passed and Planned Parenthood will not be defunded. They will continue to get their funding, all of the millions of dollars that our tax-paying dollars are going into for them to continue to sell. Only in America. Thank you for that text. Only in America. The grand jury indicts anti-abortion activists behind the Planned Parenthood videos on charge of soliciting organs. David Daleden, founder of Center for Medical Process, is charged. His So I go back to the Henrietta Lacks. I go back to the Tuskegee experiments. I understand that this changes the game as far as like stem cell research and cloning and everything else that is going to come in fruition that we know about when it comes to cells and owning things, as far as owning body parts. My problem is, when did these mothers sign a form, or when were they aware that they were signing a form that their child was going to be donated for research? That may, who knows, that may change the game for a mother. That may change the game for somebody carrying a baby to know, like, all right, my child's just about to be researched. Well, maybe I could be that person to keep it for research. Maybe I'm the researcher that finds out whether or not I'm a good mom. As a parent, I want to know what's being done, even to the child that I don't want. That sounds I know that sounds crazy, but it's still mine. And if I'm giving it to you to get rid of it, that doesn't mean for you to do what you want with it.
Here's a question you're not asking, though. Do most of these women actually care? Because most of the women that go and use these services for abortion, they really don't care what happens with it. They just want to get rid of the problem that they have. And that's probably a question that you need to sort of look into, because there's another side to this that you're not presenting. You as a parent, myself as a parent, I understand where you're coming from, because it horrifies me that people use Planned Parenthood as birth control. It horrifies me that people willy-nilly go out there, they get pregnant, and they don't really care what happens. All they care about is, I have this problem and I need to get it taken care of. So for me, that's a huge ethical issue. But on the flip side, you have to ask yourself, whether or not they actually, sign a waiver or whatnot, do they even care?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. But if they're not properly informed, that's my biggest thing. Informed consent.
And if they are informed, and I'm not saying that they're dumb or dim-witted. What I'm saying is would they actually understand what you are asking of them? Because a lot of people that use these services in the rural areas that, don't, for lack of a better term, don't finish high school, don't get the education that they need. Would they even understand what you were asking?
I think that's a really good question. And I thank you for challenging my one-sided thought process.
You're welcome. I really enjoy your show, and you really make me think about the other side of things a lot. So when I can interact with you, I try and take that chance every day. So
thank you. I love and appreciate you. I hope you have an awesome day today.
You too.
Awesome. Hey, that's a good question. Do these people care? At the end of the day, I don't know. Maybe come on, Reggie. Let's go to the abortion clinic and let's go get some paperwork and read it and see if it says. Hold on, but we have to go to a Planned Parenthood abortion clinic. Cause I want to see if the paperwork says like we do use these little baby parts as scientific research.
Commonwealth Ave. That's Stop and Shop. Stop Market. We can go there.
Commonwealth Ave.
Planned Parenthood right there.
Okay. I'm so nervous because aren't there people that stand out there? They're like, no, don't do it. And then we're going in as like a couple. I'm so nervous.
All we have to do is be like, listen, she ain't pregnant. She's just a big girl. But we're going in here to find us some information.
She's just a big girl.
We on your side. We on your side. Relax.
I definitely am. If I've never made my stance clear, I am for whatever choice. Like whatever choice a woman makes, I don't think it should be stipulated to if her daddy rapes her or if her brother rapes her. I don't want to put barriers around it, but I do believe that a man should also have a choice because there are some men out here that are like, she killed my baby. And there are men out here that are like, yo, I wanted this broad to go to Planned Parenthood and she wouldn't do it. Yep. So I don't know how we can make the playing field level and have fathers have equal rights. Because fathers don't even have equal rights when it comes to doing taxes. They don't have equal rights when it comes to anything. Nothing. So.
Except their lifeline.
That's about it. Let me talk. Shout out to Reggie B because he went ahead and posted this. There is 2 beautiful teen girls who are currently in the 7th grade who are in big trouble right now. They're looking at up to 30 days of suspension. And the only reason why is because they were in gym class. One girl was having like a little asthma attack. She was wheezing and the other girl gave her inhaler. Now, again, I go back to my experiences because that's as much as I can speak on. And when he has a sports asthma. So when he's running around, he'll get asthma real quick, but he doesn't actually have like everyday asthma. So he was outside, he was running around, and he couldn't breathe. He was wheezing. His godmother pulled out her inhaler, gave it to him, and he was good. Mm-hmm. I did not know that's damn near illegal. Like, that's a controlled substance. You're over here sharing medication, and because the girls did so in school, they're looking at up to 30 days suspension. And I think it's crazy. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they're in Texas and they're black. That's totally not true because there were 2 white children in 2012 that were also suspended for the very same thing. So a lot of people were hitting me up when I posted this on Facebook. It was just like, oh, that's all about racism and, only in Texas. Yeah and no, because a similar story popped up and there was nobody black in the story, but yet they still got suspended.
Did the white girls get 30 days too?
I don't know if they got 30 days. What I do know is that policies sometimes don't always make sense. I understand policies. I get them.
They never make sense.
They never make sense because if it's 3:00 in the morning and the light's right, I'm sorry, I'm going through it. I understand laws. I understand policies, but sometimes common sense has to take the front seat. Yep. And these laws and policies need to take a back seat. Now, what would the school have done had the girl left her inhaler at home? There wasn't one at the nurse's office, and she's over here wheezing and has an asthma attack and ends up in the hospital. How do you explain that to the mother then?
They don't think like that.
Well, and this goes back. I understand policies. I understand procedures, but sometimes procedures needs to take a back seat. Sometimes. We have a caller on the line, 617-282-0062. Good rising, caller, you're live.
Morning, Tayla. How are you?
Hey, Bernie Sanders is in the game, boo. Bernie Sanders is getting numbers, boo.
Them polls mean nothing. If they don't go and vote, the caucus,
they're gonna vote.
Bernie is not gonna win. So you can keep hope alive all you want. He's not gonna win.
I'm keeping all the hope alive, boo. Bernie's getting money. Bernie's getting numbers.
Up in Iowa.
I'm gonna get the nomination so he can get all the money he wants.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me.
I just wanted to talk on that subject about the inhaler. I'm torn because you said policy sometimes needs to take a back seat, but I'm an asthmatic myself. And when you're an asthmatic, you have specialized inhalers for your specific asthma. If you give someone else your inhaler, you may either be giving them too little or too much. And so it's a thin line, because if you have asthma, you're supposed to always have your inhaler. You have to have a backup. If you're in school, if you're at work, if you drive, you always have to have
inhalers,
it.
they're messing
You
people
could
up. They're
be
not
giving
helping them.
someone too much.
Yeah, I took an
That's
RN
just
off
like
it.
when
messing
you
And he
them up.
was actually doing better when I took it off.
You're taking the responsibility of someone else's life, and it could either help them or hurt them if you don't know how to really do CPR. And you have to stay there until help comes. So I'm kind of torn, because you need to be educated when you're an asthmatic and you're given this medication, that you have to have your inhaler everywhere you go. And you have to have multiple, not just one, for this reason. If you left it, you need to have a backup. In the school, they need to have you on file, and you have a backup in the nurse's office. You have to have your backup, because asthma is a serious thing. So you can't say, oh, if she didn't give it to her, how would the parents feel? The parents need to know that their child has their medication.
Point well taken, baby. I have no rebuttal at all. No rebuttal.
I did. Can I just say something real quick? There's an athlete that goes by the name of Jackie Joyner Kersee. You might have heard her name. She was in the '96 Olympics, and she was a triathlete. She was a triathlete. She did all of the Olympic sports back in '96 down in Atlanta, Georgia. But I just want to say that if for the listeners who have asthma, if you YouTube her, Jackie Joyner Kersee, I think it's story or something like that. She actually talks about how she overcame her asthma, and I think she gives a little detail as to how she did that. Because personally, I think inhalers are, and I'm not saying this to offend people who are asthmatic, but I think you control your asthma without that inhaler. There's ways of doing that. Eating better, Dr. Sebi's videos with the food, the Jackie Joyner Kersee video on YouTube I talked about. There's ways of curtailing that asthma where you won't have to take that, because personally, I think inhalers are more are doing more damage than good. That's just my opinion on that. But look those videos up though.
Opinion, and I have read on Jackie Joyner Kersee, you can, just like anything else, don't have to be on medication, but sometimes that still doesn't work. I was born with asthma, and when I came into this world, I had asthma. So there are ways that you can control it better, and you may not have to be on 4 pumps instead of 2 pumps, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't need something like a rescue inhaler. So say you didn't have an asthma attack for 5 years, and you automatically have one out of nowhere, and you have nothing for you. So see, asthma can come and asthma can go, but asthma can come back too, because that happened to me. I hadn't had an asthma attack for years. Didn't have to use my inhaler. One day out of the blue, I had an asthma attack and was admitted in the hospital. So just because it goes away doesn't mean that you still don't have it. It's dormant and it can come back at any time. And asthma kills.
Learn something new every day. Thank you, baby. Love and appreciate you. Hope you have an awesome day today. Let me get to this other news, because we got callers on the line that are a little bit pissed off. But I do want to get to this Black at BLS. You remember them babies? I told you hashtag Black at BLS. So they got some supporters, and their supporters are
They do. They got
elected officials.
They got a whole bunch of them. I seen that.
You saw that?
I saw what you're looking at. Yeah,
yes. So they're talking about making this a citywide conversation when it comes to race relations in the city. And I think that's great. Being proactive, instead of having some of our cheerleaders with T-shirts have a whole bunch of letters on them.
Ninjas?
Yeah, and then making words.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So I'm glad we're being proactive, and I'm interested in seeing how far this goes. I was on their Twitter yesterday, and they said, thank you for the support. This is just the beginning. Ain't no stopping us now.
Or the other version.
What?
Ain't no half stepping.
I got you, Reggie B. I got you. So, I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of these young people because I know I call them children, but they're not. They're young people.
Yeah.
And Boston Latin students vowed to join the activists in the campaign. A slew of students at Boston Latin School arrived yesterday wearing black in show of solidarity with activists who have charged the prestigious exam school that has ignored their racial taunts and directed at minority students. I think it's a good thing. It's about time somebody said something, a 17-year-old junior said of the activist as he entered the nation's oldest public school wearing a black fleece under his blue jacket. I see people on Twitter talking about it a lot, and I'm just glad that we are finally talking about it.
It took somebody to open them up.
Yep. Hashtag black at BLS. When a teacher call you 15 different black girls' names because all y'all look alike, black at BLS.
Is that to the side or straight forward?
Hey. All of the above. I feel like by us starting it, we are starting a whole movement. So if issues happen at other schools, they can come forward and start talking about it too, a sophomore girl said, adding that she had been on the receiving end of the racial comments in the past. It's pretty much a given. There isn't much we can do about it, she said, or at least there wasn't until now. And now these children do feel like they have some power, some authority, I'm proud of these babies. Mm-hmm. I am so proud of them. Yep. Stand up for your voice, stand up for your rights. Like, you got the right. Oh no, that's like a party song. I'm so bad. 617-282-0062, Garage and call you live.
Good morning, Miss Andre. How are you this morning?
I'm super fantastic. How are you?
Pretty good. I think the song you're looking for is Get Up, Stand Up. Get up, stand up for your rights.
Hey.
I just wanted to pick up this crew at Latin School, and this is tough for me because I'm a Latin Academy alum. But what's dope is that talking to alumni that are my age, that are near their 40s and mid-30s, have the same complaint and felt voiceless. And here we are a generation later, and these kids, these young people are leading. And I think that's dope. And if we just follow their leadership, we'll find ourselves doing the right thing.
Yep.
Yes. I can't wait. So I've reached out to try and get these young people on air, and I'm just waiting to hear something back. So
they're gonna say yeah.
Of course they're gonna say yes, but we have to wait. They're youngins.
Wait, hold up though. You see how many young people in that video? You looking at that picture? How you fit in here?
That's all right. We gonna bring some of them in here. Hey, they got a voice.
Say a name.
Carlos, I want to say thank you. Anything else you want to add? Because I know you got some insight.
No, I'm just waiting to see. I'm glad that, like you said, you took the words out of my mouth. I'm glad the city is responding. I read the article in the Herald where the mayor vowed to take the city wide, so I'd like to see that done. And I'm sure that the young people are going to mount a campaign that's going to hold everybody, ourselves and the elected officials, accountable. And that's what we need all the way around the board. That accountability, it comes from organizing. And they're organized and they're reaching out, and it grows. And we should take the lesson and do that in all of our neighborhoods for all of our issues.
You hear that, grown folks? These babies out here trying to organize, trying to get things done. What y'all grown folks doing, huh?
They ain't trying, they doing it.
They are. Carlos, I love and appreciate you. Hope you have an awesome day today. They are. Absolutely.
Shout out to Carlos.
Shout out to Carlos.
My man, my brother from another mother.
Hello? Yes. Yay! Yes. Are you outside? Yes, please. So let me tell you. Big City 101.3 FM, waking up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7, where we discuss anything, everything, unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. So one of the conversations that is going on around our country is marijuana legalization or medical marijuana legalization. So police are seeking criminal charges against Bill Downing, one of the state's most vocal marijuana legislation supporters, a move that his lawyer calls retaliation for his criticism of the state's regulation of the medical marijuana industry. A magistrate judge is scheduled to consider whether to approve a complaint filed by the Boston Police Department at a hearing at Boston Municipal Court in Brighton on Tuesday. And this article is about 3 weeks old. 2 weeks old. We have the amazing Bill Downing in the building. This is not his first rodeo. This is the second time he's been in here. And I'm going to be 100% transparent. The last time he was here, I accidentally took an Ambien. If you listen to the show, I thought I was taking a vitamin. Bill, come in.
So you were slow.
No, if you listen to the show, I was like, blue. And he was like, hold on, can you repeat the question? He was such a good sport.
This is the man that understood what you were saying.
He understood. Of course he understood.
Wow. That's all right. And listen, real quick, somebody texted me, anonymous texted me a message. And I want to read it, and it was talking about the Planned Parenthood thing.
Oh, yes.
And the person said, have you ever seen a video of a fully formed fetus fighting in vain against a scalpel, fighting for its life like every living organism naturally does? At what point does it constitute murder? How is it any different from killing a black man, have his organs stolen, stuffed with newspaper? Just a little food for thought.
Oh, remember though? They let that slide.
Yeah, they did.
They let that slide too. So Planned Parenthood was cleared of absolutely no wrongdoing, but the activist that recorded him was indicted for a felony charge of tampering with government documents. Yeah, welcome to America. Ching ching.
Is that what Bill just said?
Yeah.
He just said welcome to America?
Come over, Bill. Come over. I'm so excited to have you in the studio. I am so excited. We're gonna go ahead and put you mass can.
Yeah.
Talk to us, Bill. What is mass can? Put it on your lip and don't be afraid to yell at us.
Okay. MassCan is the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition, state affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. And we're a nonprofit public education organization. And we represent all of Massachusetts, and we talk all about cannabis and the need to regulate rather than prohibit cannabis for all of its uses, recreational, religious, medical, for industrial uses. So for instance, hemp would be one of the things that we're looking to make sure that people understand about. And cannabis is a plant, and it's a very useful plant. And it's a better alternative to an awful lot of other things that people use as recreational drugs. And we really hope that we have regulation of cannabis here in Massachusetts pretty soon, and we expect we will.
So how about right now? What do our laws look like with marijuana in Massachusetts right now?
It's still, we do have decriminalization since 2008. We decriminalized marijuana in 2008, so possession of an ounce or less of marijuana is a citation, kind of like a traffic ticket. For, in most cases, $100. Now, unfortunately, there was a provision in the decriminalization law that allowed local municipalities to add additional fines. So a lot of towns around Massachusetts added additional fines, and in many of those towns, the fines are up to a total of $350.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And really, that provision was not, there was no good reason to have it in there. I mean, I don't think they gained any extra votes by having that provision. It was just a single sentence in a relatively long law.
Mm-hmm.
So probably most people didn't even realize that it was in there.
Do the police profit off of this? So if I give you a ticket and these fees come up to $350, do I personally, or does the department personally profit off of that ticket?
No, it's just like any other, it's like a traffic citation or anything like that. It goes into the general funds. But they are paid by the towns and cities. So it does help to finance the towns and cities. But it's not like forfeiture, which we also have here in Massachusetts. And that, the money, a good portion of it anyway, does go directly to the police department for them to.
Is that when they pull you over, you have money in your pocket, and they're like, oh, I'm going to take this because I think it may have something to do with drugs?
That's right. Yep, that's one example of forfeiture. And forfeiture law is very old and very strange. It was actually first written as a way of getting assets from pirates.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's right. So if a pirate took over another ship, boarded another ship, the U.S. government wanted to take the ship from him, and they'd use forfeiture law to do
Hold
it.
on. We still utilize a law that we used against pirates.
Yeah, we can. And
That doesn't make sense.
well, the whole law is bizarre because you're never charged with a crime. Technically, your property is charged with being criminal property. So you don't.
But I'm
have
not
to-
charged with a crime, but the
That's
property is criminal.
Yeah, that's right.
How do I get my criminal property back?
Well, you have to prove its innocence. So standard American law is that you are innocent until proven guilty. But forfeiture law assumes that your property is guilty of being the result of criminal enterprise, unless you can prove that it's not. So police pull you over, they find, who knows, $500, $600, $800 in your wallet, and they take it from you. And unless you can prove where that $500, $600, $800 came from, they get to keep it.
My baby mama just paid me child support.
Well,
No, that doesn't work.
if you can prove it, yeah, if you can go to court and show that that's where it came from, then that's fine. But a lot of times people have money that they just have. They don't necessarily have ways of proving how they got it. Especially
That's crazy to me.
it is crazy, isn't it?
That doesn't make sense, Bill.
You know,
We have laws that are utilized evered day that we use on pirates. Like that alone is enough for us to stop the conversation and say, listen, maybe we need to take a look at some of these laws.
Yeah, well, there's lots of strange. In fact, if you there's a website called Bad Laws, I believe. If you Google Bad Laws, you'll see there's a website that's got a huge list of bad laws.
Yeah, it's like you can't walk backwards on a Tuesday down the
Exactly.
street on the left-hand side.
That's right. Actually, technically, on Boston Common, you're supposed to carry a blunderbuss.
What is that?
It's a giant shotgun that they used to fill up with things like nails and rock salt and stuff like that. And they used to use them for stagecoach robberies because you didn't really have to aim it. You just kind of pointed it in the general direction and pulled the trigger, and it scattered a whole bunch of stuff in that direction.
So if we went to Boston Common with a scatterbust,
A blunderbuss.
blunderbuss, we couldn't be charged with anything because it's legal.
In fact, it's required. It's required. And if you don't have your blunderbuss, then you could be charged with not having a blunderbuss. And it says right in the law that it's for fear of bears on Boston Common. I
Wow.
don't know when the last time a bear crossed Boston
It's
Common. It was a long time ago, I'm sure.
Oh my good, I'm learning more about state laws than I am about weed right now. This is crazy.
It is. There's a lot of stupid laws. And there actually was a bill that was proceeding through the legislature that was going to remove like 200 really stupid old laws that were meaningless. And it was stopped. The legislature didn't allow it to pass.
Are you really?
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the legislature.
And one of those weird things is the fact that this plant that grows out of the ground way before man even existed is illegal, but yet this thing called alcohol is legal, tobacco is legal, coffee is legal, and all of these things are highly addictive. And high fructose corn syrup is legal, but yet they've proven that it's more addictive than cocaine. But this plant that, from what I understand, the actual growing of marijuana filters radiation.
It does. It cleans soil. It's called a phytoremediator. And so if you have polluted soils, and we here in Massachusetts have a lot of polluted soil. We've had industry here in Massachusetts since 1750 or something like that, including tanneries and furniture factories that use all kinds of varnishes and stripping agents and things like that. So, and this is a side note, but people should be aware, if you've got a garden in your backyard, be worried, because here in Massachusetts, there's a chance that there was some old industry in that area.
What about all of
Might
the
be a lot of
farmers
crap.
markets around here? All of the garden, we have like community gardens and stuff like that.
That soil should be tested before you start using it to grow anything.
Wouldn't the city, because it's a community garden and it's,
Yeah,
wouldn't the
hopefully.
city test it?
One would hope, yes. I'm not really sure. And not just test it, but also look back through the records of that property and see, was there a tannery here? Was there a varnishing factory? Were there chemical companies located here? Things like that. But I don't really know. That's a good question. That'd be an interesting thing to find out. Now, you can also send soil samples off for free testing. Government
Really?
will do free testing of soil samples. There used to be in Waltham, there was a federal facility that did soil testing for free for people.
But you can send it to the United States government and they'll test the soil
They'll
for free.
test it for things like heavy metals, like cadmium and arsenic and cobalt and things like that, and solvents like xylene and toluene.
These are all things I have no idea what they are.
No, but they're horrifically poisonous, is what they are. And the other thing that the way we started talking about this was that you can grow hemp on soil that's horrifically contaminated, and the plant will, in the case of heavy metals, it'll take the heavy metals out of the soil and bring them up into the plant material.
Is that why the weed is so potent? Because it's
No, the potency has to do with THC, the psychoactive ingredient in it. It's not poisoning you when it's making you high. It's, it's actually, THC is actually not bad for you at all. It's actually, in some ways, it's kind of good for you. But
Can we talk about the benefits of THC? Because this is the reason why you're currently in the news, right?
THC is one of the constituents in cannabis, and it's the one that happens to get you high. But the products that I offer through CBD Please don't get you high at all. And they're high in another chemical in cannabis called cannabidiol, or CBD. And CBD is actually an anti-anxiety medication.
So instead of popping Xanax, you could just the
cannabidiol.
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 Yeah.
Say it again, Reggie.
Cannabidiol.
Cannabidiol. There we go.
Yeah.
Do I need to be your guy?
Yes, you do.
Well, it doesn't actually make you sleepy, but it does relieve anxiety. So if it's anxiety that's keeping you awake, then CBD can help you with that part of it. There is another cannabinoid in marijuana and hemp, and it's called CBN, or cannabinol. And CBN actually does make you sleepy. It's great for people who have insomnia. And if you've ever smoked marijuana and felt sleepy, it's probably because it's got some CBN in it.
Do all strands have these individuals cannabis that you're mentioning? So I heard 3 different cannabis.
Yeah, cannabinoids. Yeah, and there's actually 86 of them.
Oh wow!
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ones. But the ones that occur with the greatest frequency are THC. In marijuana, it's THC, and then CBD is number 2. And then you get things like CBN and CBG and CBC. And they all have various medical effects. And but this research is just now becoming available here in the United States. It's been available in many other countries for a long, long time, and they've been researching it and finding out all kinds of very interesting and beneficial things about it as far as medicines go in Israel and Spain and England and other places like that. But here in the United States, we're a little different. We really don't allow research into cannabis. And that's because of this mental condition that our government officials have called reefer madness. It's a mental disorder where you believe that the cannabis plant is somehow inherently evil.
It's a mental disorder.
It is, yeah. And many of our top officials.
It's a gateway drug, Bill. It's gonna lead you down the path of nothingness. You're gonna be a stoner all your life. You're not gonna be able to accomplish anything.
Well, just
Oh,
like
these are the rhetoric.
President Obama, I guess, would be a good example.
Exactly.
Stoner who,
And Clinton.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
no,
and
man.
all kinds of leaders. I mean, most of our leaders now have used marijuana at some point in their life, and most of our business leaders, and even much more than just marijuana. I mean, after all, there's all kinds of stories about Stephen Jobs using LSD, and he was the guy who started Apple Computer.
That's why he started Apple, because he was high.
Well, maybe it helped with his imaginative. I mean, a lot of creative
writers,
people.
yeah, a lot of writers were
That's
on
right.
drugs.
A lot of songwriters.
Writers, yeah.
And particularly on marijuana. It's very different than other drugs. Cannabis actually works through a different system in our bodies called the endocannabinoid system. And it's a different system.
We have a system in our body called
cannabinoids. Yes.
Cannabinoids.
And our bodies actually produce something very, very similar to THC internally. And it's called anandamide, which is the Sanskrit word for bliss. And this whole system was discovered relatively recently.
Okay, pause, Bill. Pause.
Yeah, stop there.
Let me pause, because when you read the article in the Globe about this man who's been selling illegal products, what they don't tell you is that you are highly educated in the products in which you sell, first and foremost.
Oh yeah, I've been studying them for over 30 years, so I know a lot about this stuff. Yeah.
I don't understand. What is the problem? Right?
Well, I'm a political activist. That's the real problem. Yeah.
Go on and speak on it.
And well, I mean, the police, especially the police drug task forces, realize that at least a third of their budget is associated with marijuana interdiction, and they see the end coming. They realize that it's almost over, and it frightens them, and it makes them realize, well, we're going to lose a huge chunk of our budget, and what are we going to do? It's like a wounded animal striking out as it's dying, and it can still be dangerous. And in my case, unfortunately, it seems to be that they are still dangerous. And I'm one of the most outspoken activists. In fact, I'm probably the most outspoken activist in the state. For instance, my store, when I announced its opening, I was in the Boston Herald, I was on WBZ and WBUR. I got all kinds of coverage about this store being open, and it explained fully that these were products that were sold nationally, and there's hundreds of retailers, and they don't contain anything more than just tiny traces of THC, and that they're really full of this other stuff, CBD. And the truth is that CBD makes it so you cannot get high. So it's actually kind of like anti-marijuana. But that's not really, they didn't really care about that part of it. What they did was they spent, I'm sure, many tens of thousands of dollars, and who knows, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, sending undercover police agents into my business to buy these CBD products from me.
Thank you. Free advertising. You guys paying
money.
into exactly.
Yeah. And then they send it off to the state lab, and the state lab tests it for THC, and they find the tiny traces of THC in it that are in there, tiny traces.
And now, are these edibles? Are we eating cookies and brownies? Are we putting slobs
even more
on?
ridiculous? Most of it is oil, which is oil that people wipe underneath their tongue, at the bottom of their mouth, for medical purposes. And nobody would use this stuff for anything but medicine. It doesn't taste all that great. And in fact, it tastes kind of lousy. But you can mix the oil with flavoring agent, and then it's called tincture. And then you put it in your mouth and it tastes good, and it has the same effect. It's all got the same active ingredient, CBD. And there's also capsules, there's also creams and lotions, there's shampoo, there's body wash, there's all these different products. And the police sent them all off and got them all tested, and and found tiny traces of THC in it, and used that to get search warrants for both my business and my home. And they did simultaneous raids at my business in Alston and at my home in the suburbs north of Boston. And came into my home and roused my family out of bed with submachine guns and flak jackets and helmets, and held them at bay, making sure that they didn't do anything untoward while the police rummaged through my house.
What did they find?
They found a very small amount of marijuana, but I'm a medical marijuana patient. So I legally have the ability to possess up to 10 ounces of marijuana. It was
Hold on, how
much
do you do
less
that?
than
How do you do that, Bill?
Um,
Up to 10 ounces legally?
per patient, and I actually have 2 patients in my family, so we were actually able to have more than twice that, 20 ounces. And the way you do it is, well, first of all, you have to qualify, and you have to qualify by having a condition of a medical condition. Could be either a result of an injury or an illness.
Carpal tunnel.
Yes, that's a potential.
I have a doctor's appointment today.
Yep, carpal tunnel is pain.
Absolutely, all day, every day.
There you go. And there's lots and lots of good evidence that cannabis is a very effective medication for pain, and CBD, the product that I offer, actually is very effective for pain and inflammation. And that's not just me saying that. The U.S. government itself owns a patent. The U.S. government itself applied for and was given a patent on CBD, cannabidiol, the product that I offer. And in their patent application, it says CBD has been shown to be an anti-inflammatory and anti-anxiety, and it names several other products.
So how do they, if there's a patent that says that this product is good for this, medical for this, how do they get the right to kick in your door with weapons in your family's face?
Because of the teeny tiny amounts of THC in the product. Which of course would never get anyone high. It's got so much CBD and CBD makes it so you can't get high.
Okay, so I'm confused because one of the first things that you said was, in the state of Massachusetts, you can have up to an ounce and get like a little citation, $100 up to $250.
Right.
But then you said, I sell this product that has minimum traces of not the agent that gets you high, but of the healing agent.
Well, no, it has lots and lots of the healing agent, the CBD, but tiny traces of the part that gets you high.
Okay.
Right.
And they felt that this was necessary to kick in your door.
Yeah, they did. Now, of course, possessing and selling are 2 different things.
Okay.
So as a medical marijuana patient, I'm allowed to possess THC products.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to sell anything with THC. But that's not really true. And we're going to establish this. I know I'm innocent, and I'll be found innocent eventually. But it's just bizarre because they're using this as a way of trying to intimidate me and trying to stop me.
You don't
from
look never
speaking
scared
out.
though.
Well, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now.
Have you ever been in jail or jailed?
I've never
for
been
this?
arrested for anything in my entire life. And I've never sued or been sued. And even my driving record is clean. I'm a homeowner. I'm happily married for 28 years. I've got 2 sons, 2 young adult sons that I've brought up. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm an Eagle Boy Scout. Right on.
Isn't this? I've been saying Scouts Honor like this for the
That's
years.
Cub Scouts. No, Boy Scouts is 3.
Scouts Honor.
3 fingers. Yeah.
Somebody said, Taylor, you're not a scout. You can't say that. So, all right. How can or what steps need to be taken to make what you do legal?
Well, next November, we're going to have, first of all, it's going to be becoming legal if I ever go to trial. The police have filed complaints against me.
Mm-hmm.
And usually...
To who? Because people file complaints with the police. Who do police complain to?
They're filing them with the Brighton Municipal Court.
Okay. All right.
And usually it's a very routine thing for the court to issue charges against you once the police have brought a complaint against you. And we had a hearing about this, and it was before a judge magistrate. And my legal representation at the hearing was so effective that the judge magistrate is having a difficult time deciding whether or not to charge me. So I haven't even been charged yet, which is very unusual. I mean, usually it's just the police made a complaint, we issue the charges, very rote kind of thing.
So they're looking for loopholes to get you.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and they're spending a lot of money and
Yep.
a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it's not going to work.
So what if I
know
want to
eventually-
complain that they're spending my tax-paying dollars on nonsense like trying to bring down Bill?
Yeah, well, like there isn't anything else they could spend the money on,
Education,
yeah.
the tea.
Yeah, or even other police enforcement stuff, I mean, this is money, these are valuable resources that are being used for political purposes purely, and eventually it'll be shown that it's a total waste of money because, I mean, it's obvious that this is a selective enforcement of the law, and because these products are sold all over the place, all over Boston, all over Massachusetts, and you can go on the internet and buy them, and they're not considered illegal. They're made from hemp, and hemp products were specifically not made illegal, and they're not part of the Controlled Substances Act.
So, and this is why you're a free man. This is why you've been charged with nothing, and this is...
Right, well, I may be charged. We'll find out in the next few days, and in that case, I'll go to trial, and we're going to make a huge stink. That's going to be
publicity.
Oh yeah, and the trial is going to be just there's going to be I'll have patients there. I have hundreds of patients who are using CBD as a way of helping them with the huge variety of psychological and physiological issues.
So can we talk a little bit about Massachusetts state laws with marijuana? Because I feel like you'd probably be the best person to ask. So we have now, we're opening dispensaries, or we're in the process of opening dispensaries. How does this work here in Massachusetts? So let's say a listener's listening, I have back pain, I have hip pain, I have joint pain, or whatever, I get headaches on Tuesdays. Whatever their problem is, their doctor says, I completely concur, this is a problem. You don't want to go ahead and take pills. As far as, I don't want the shot, the cortisone shot. I do not want to get a shot every day of my, once a month. I'm 32. Like, I plan on living a long life, and getting shots once a month for the rest of my life and getting surgery isn't, I'd rather go with the holistic approach. So how can I take these steps to be able to legally possess this thing that is still illegal for all of the stupid reasons
Okay,
that we've listed?
Any doctor can suggest that cannabis might be helpful for you. But very few doctors have actually gone to the Department of Public Health and registered as doctors that are able to give a recommendation for medical cannabis.
Okay.
And if you type in, medical marijuana doctor and then your town, you probably get a list of them. But I'll tell you, right around here, there's in South Boston, you've got Canacare docs. There's a few others. There's my favorite doctor's out in Natick, Uplifting Health and Wellness. It's Dr. Uma, and she's a wonderful doctor, and she's registered with the State Department of Public Health to be able to do these recommendations. And so you go to these doctors that are set up with the Department of Public Health. You meet with them and present them with evidence of the fact that you have an illness or an injury. Usually, for instance, when I went to Canacare docs on Dot Ave, I brought along some of my prescriptions because I have gout, and so I get prescription medicine for treating my gout. And I brought along those prescription bottles so they could see, oh yes, look, he's got this medicine that's used for gout.
And that's really all you need to bring?
If you can get a copy of your medical records, then it's probably a good idea to bring them in, because they'll actually talk to you about your condition, and not just about cannabis or marijuana and your condition. They actually do a fairly good job. And for instance, when they were talking to me about gout, they talked to me about a lot of stuff. They talked to me about diet. They talked to me about, other things just than using cannabis for gout.
Mm.
So yeah, the more information you can give them, the better off you are, just as far as taking advantage of the fact that you're seeing a doctor. But if
That sounds kind of expensive, is it?
it's generally around $200. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons why medical marijuana patients should be interested in supporting the legalization of marijuana. Because not only do you have to spend the $200 to get the doctor's recommendation, but once you've done that, then you have to register with the Department of Public Health. And these are both annual fees. So every year you have to go back to that doctor and get your recommendation renewed. And every year you have to go to the State Department of Health's website and pay another $50 to be a registered medical marijuana patient.
So how much money have you spent?
Just to be a patient?
Yeah.
Well, it's been 2 years, so it's $200 for the doctor each year, so that's $400, and then $50 each year for the state, so that's another $100, so it's $500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I used to use this this hair grease back in the day, Bill. It's called Indian hemp. Sound familiar
cool.
to you?
Oh yeah.
The hemp that we're talking about, is it actually the same type of ingredient in that hair grease? I don't think they have it anymore because I don't see it on the shelves anymore.
And it smells so good. The green one that had all those little pieces of hemp in it. It smelled amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a hemp smell or a marijuana smell.
No.
It was a really sweet aroma. I remember that. And they don't sell it anymore. They just sell the green jelly version. Or it was amazing.
It probably had tiny traces of THC in it because most hemp does, just teeny tiny traces. But you're putting it in your hair. I mean, my God, it's not going to get you high.
It helped with growth. It
Yeah,
was really moisturizing. I remember the product. High five, Reggie.
I had
Back.
But I had afro when I used that.
He
So
said I had
when I
afro.
took the pick and picked through it, it was like going through your hair.
Slid
Easy,
right through.
just like this.
Woo! Boy, you got a perm.
Moisturizing and conditioning, and it smells good too.
It does smell.
So can we rewind a little bit to when hemp was a cash crop that you had to? It was legal. It was you had to produce.
Yeah, it was required by the colony of Massachusetts back when we were ruled by England. That if you were a farmer, you were paid a bounty, meaning if hemp was worth $1, for 500 pounds, they would pay you more than $1.
So like subsidizing milk.
Yeah,
kinda.
exactly. And if you didn't grow hemp, you had to pay a fine.
Wow.
How did we get from that point to the point where, the Mexicans are bringing in wacky tobacco and raping all the women?
Yeah. Well, it had to do a lot with a guy named Harry Anslinger, who used to work for the Treasury Department. And back in the days of alcohol prohibition, the Treasury Department used to go around busting up stills. And they called them revenuers. And revenue and Treasury, they're collecting money. That's their whole function. And Harry Anslinger saw that alcohol prohibition was going by the wayside. It was going to be dumped because it was such a horrific policy that created giant criminal enterprise. And he saw it was going away pretty quick. And so he very rapidly started a new department in the Department of Treasury called the FBN, the Federal Bureau of Narcotics.
Oh, now that's the firearms, tobacco, and alcohol now, right?
And they're part of the Treasury Department, yeah. But it's also now we've got the DEA and we've got the ONDCP, the National Office of National Drug Control Policy. And so there's a lot of bureaucratic growth behind the drug war since then. But this guy, Harry Anslinger, worked very, very hard to make sure that marijuana was included as a quote-unquote narcotic, which it had not been considered a narcotic until Harry Anslinger came along. And then you also had William Randolph Hearst, who was a huge newspaper magnate, and he owned all kinds of newspapers all over the U.S. And he grabbed onto these stories about marijuana causing people to do crazy things. And Harry Anslinger and William Randolph Hearst both In fact, Harry Anslinger testified before Congress, and there are quotes from him talking about how marijuana is used by Mexicans and black people and jazz musicians, worst of all, jazz musicians. And he said that their satanic music is inspired by their use of marijuana. And he talked about how when white women use marijuana, they are likely to have sex with black men. And in his quote, he says, and this is before Congress, he's testifying before Congress saying this stuff. And he said, white women are more likely to have sex with black men or any others. Implying.
So that was enough for them. That's all we needed. Prohibition.
And and this kind of stuff was accepted by society. This is back in the mid-30s. And so you could testify before Congress and say things that are horrifically bigoted.
And 80 years later, we're still fighting.
Yeah, and it was based, a lot of it was based on racism and ignorance. Now, you were asking about hemp and marijuana. Well, they conflated the two. See, this word marijuana was basically made up. We don't really know its origin. It might have come from a Chinese word, ma ren hua, which was hemp seed flour. There's other potential. There's actually an African word from the Bantu tribe that it might have been.
Pause, Bill. You keep throwing these fireballs at me. When I read the Globe's article, it was about this hippie guy that knew nothing, who was out here selling stuff that needed to be stopped.
Yeah.
And when you actually sit down with you have more knowledge than any of those that are coming for you.
Well, yeah, those guys don't know dick. I mean, so you can't say Dick on the radio. Well, it's a guy's name, isn't it? I mean, I know Dick. He's a good friend of mine.
I know him too.
He's only got one eye.
I'm coming to live with you, Bill. I'm coming, me and my children, we're gonna pack up, we're moving in today.
That's all right.
They don't. And for you to sit here and name Bantu tribes and words that hemp seed flour, what is the Asian word?
Ma ren hua.
Ma ren hua.
Yeah. And that might be the origin of the word marijuana. But basically my point was it was made up. And they needed a new word, because if you had said to the American public or to the Congress or anybody like that, we're making cannabis illegal, they would have said, wait a second, you can't make cannabis illegal. My grandma uses that for rheumatism. And we wipe that on children's gums when they have teething pain.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was hugely, widely medically used until it was banned in 1937. And also, of course, hemp was conflated with marijuana, because they're both part of the same plant family. Cannabis has a bunch of different plants that are, there's sativa, there's indica, there's ruderalis, and then there's hemp, and there's marijuana, and they're all actually quite different from each other. It's kind of like dogs. A Chihuahua is quite different than a Great Dane. Yeah, but they're all dogs, right? And so these guys were saying back in the 30s, guys like William Randolph Hearst and Harry Anslinger and people like that were saying, oh, well, it's all part of the same family, so we're going to ban the whole thing. Of course, hemp was a huge industrial product, and it was about to burst on the scene as a billion-dollar crop. In fact, Popular Mechanics magazine was publishing a magazine article within a few months of it being made illegal, calling it the new billion-dollar crop, because we had new machines that were able to process it into fiber very rapidly, called a decorticator.
So what about today? What about, because I know hemp clothing is, when you go to smoke shops and they have like the jackets that you're wearing now, they're like $65, and it's rather expensive. Why is that?
Well, that's because we have to import it. Every industrialized country in the world allows legal growth of hemp, except for one.
The United
The
States
United States of America. We're friggin' idiots. Yeah. Everybody, Canada can do it. England can do it. China does it. Russia does it.
So what about here in Massachusetts? We voted. People can become growers. People.
Only if you're a medical marijuana patient, and only if there's no dispensaries anywhere near you, and only if you pay the state $100 a year, and a doctor $200.
So as long as you just give us money, you can do what you want.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you can to some degree. You can grow enough marijuana to produce up to 10 ounces every 60 days.
So what if I wanted to grow in order for hemp, to produce hemp?
Massachusetts state law doesn't make any distinctions between marijuana and hemp.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Even though they're very, very different. Like a Chihuahua is different than a Great Dane.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any way to put it in the bill or to alter what we're about to vote on? Is there any way to make sure that we distinguish between those two?
Yes.
Or there is?
In fact, that bill will distinguish between the two, and it will reallow the growth of industrial hemp, which is now allowed in Colorado and in Oregon and Washington and Alaska. The states that have legalized recreational marijuana have also legalized industrial hemp. And that's something that upsets the DEA terribly. I mean, I could talk about this for a long time. There was a Justice Department memo that came out last summer, early in the year, saying that on Indian land, on Indian reservation land, that Indians could grow industrial hemp. And so a lot of them put in industrial hemp crops and started growing it, thinking that the Justice Department was going to allow them to do this. And when their crop came close to being harvested, the DEA came in and chopped all their plants down in every state except for Colorado and Oregon and Washington.
Hold on. Indian land is sacred. We have no jurisdiction on what they do.
Well,
how
the
do we
DEA
just go and burn it down?
Doesn't see it that way. The DEA.
Could they not have sued? Because hold on, I feel some type of way about this because Indian reservations are reserved for them. We have no jurisdictions. Their laws are not our laws. So how do we come off and just kick in their doors, in a sense, and burn down their money and say, oh, we're allowed to, even though your property, your land is sacred?
It's the Drug Enforcement Administration, and that's the way they operate. They're vicious about this stuff. I can tell you some other stories. For instance, the state of Kentucky passed a piece of legislation saying that they were going to have an experimental farm to see whether or not hemp grows well in Kentucky, which is a joke. Hemp grew better in Kentucky than it grew anywhere else in the whole world. Mm-hmm. It was a huge industry in Kentucky. And so this experimental crop, everybody knew what the results were going to be. Of course you can grow hemp in Kentucky. In fact, it's probably the best place in the whole wide world for growing hemp. Mm-hmm. And so the state of Kentucky ordered 300 pounds of industrial hemp seed from France. And it was being brought from France for this experimental try of hemp in Kentucky. And the DEA interdicted and took the seed away from the state of Kentucky, saying, oh, yeah, no, you can't have this. It's viable marijuana seed, and it's illegal. And so...
What is it going to take for the United States of America?
Eventually they got their seed. Because
eventually they did.
Yeah, well, the most powerful, the leader of the Senate, Mitchell, happens to be a Kentucky senator.
Ah.
And he told the DEA, give them their seed.
They pull some strings.
Yeah, that's true.
Hmm.
So if you're the president of the Senate, then you can get things done. But you and me.
Wait for it. Wait for it. I might be the president of the Senate now. When I do, marijuana is going to be legal across all 50 states with hemp in mass production. I don't get it, Bill. I don't understand how the Boston Globe writers need to be a little bit more diligent when they describe you. They need to be a little bit more diligent when they write about you, because I think one of the things that they lack is you are not a stoner out here just trying to sell and profit. And I'm proud of the work that you are doing, and I thank you for the work that you're doing.
And to tell you the honest truth, I haven't been using marijuana recently. I'm a medical marijuana patient, and I can legally possess and use marijuana for medical purposes. But ever since the raid at my home, I've had a real big problem with anxiety. And I found that when I try to get stoned, I get very anxious feelings. So I've just been using the CBD products instead of getting stoned for the last almost half a year now. And hopefully when all this blows over and I can calm down,
You can roll a fatty.
start smoking again. Yeah, it's been difficult, and difficult on my family too. Every
I
time
can
I talk with
imagine.
my wife about what happened, she starts crying and stuff.
Aww.
Yeah.
Little fatty like Cheech and Chong.
Cheech and Chong, huh, Reggie? What you know about Cheech and
Stop
Chong?
playing.
Oh, really?
Stop playing.
So we have a caller on the line. Bill, I want to thank you guys for your patience and letting Bill speak so we can get the whole truth and nothing about the truth out there. Good Rise and Caller, you're live.
How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. I'd like to be this guy's supporter. I'd like to know his email and numbers so we can get together and talk some more about this. Because I like what he's saying.
Oh yeah. If you really want to join the cause, then I would join MassCan Normal. And their website is www.masscan.org. MassCann.org. And my business is CBD Please, as in please and thank you. And that's cbdplease.com. And my phone number's on the website. It's 617-834-8746. And you can email me at info@cbdplease.com. But that's the business part of it. The activist part of it is you're better off contacting them through MassCan. And MassCan has regular member meetings in different parts of the state and other events. We're a member organization. It's ruled by the members. Anybody who's a member can be an officer. And it's completely democratic. So it's done the way an organization should be done.
What do you need? What do you need from us, the listeners? What do you need from us, supporters? What do you need, period, to help this movement in Massachusetts move forward?
Well, number one, we need people to vote and to register to vote. And in November, we need them to vote for the ballot initiative to legalize marijuana. That's really what we need.
So I'm thinking you might be able to get some of these young people that blow trees to start registering to vote if they knew that this had something to do with them being stopped and frisked for a little bit of weed.
Not only that, but also it'll allow them to grow their own weed.
Here in Boston, I thought it was if you didn't have a dispensary around you.
That's the medical marijuana law. I'm talking about legalization now. In November, when you go to vote for the president in November, you'll also see on there a question. It's going to say, should we legalize marijuana in Massachusetts? It's going to allow you to grow, every adult in the state will be allowed to grow 6 plants.
So is MassCan coming out with a voting campaign? Are you guys going to come out here and reach out to these young people and just put a big ass marijuana leaf on the top and say register to vote so you can legally smoke? Because that sounds like a excellent campaign.
It is, and that is indeed what we're thinking of doing, what we're hoping to do.
I just want 10%.
You just rhymed, you know that?
No, I didn't.
Legally vote to smoke. Yes, you did.
Legally vote to smoke. Just 10%. That's all I want. Or 10 pounds of marijuana. I don't know. What is it? 10 ounces? 10 ounces a
10
month.
pounds, you're going to jail.
You know, if
Well,
it becomes
you know-
legal, I won't go to jail.
That's right. If you're allowed to grow 6 plants, do you want to grow 6 little tiny plants?
Of course not.
No, I'm going to grow 6 gigantic plants, as big as I can possibly get them. And
Really quick question, because we live in the northern states. It's cold as hell. How does weed even grow in this area unless you have like a greenhouse, unless you have like purple lights or, I watch videos. I may not know much, but I know you need like lights and hydroponic type things. And
Yeah.
Can we do it outside?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
So it's a sustainable crop. It can withstand cold and
Well, no, you can't grow it during the winter.
okay.
I mean, it's like a tomato. or anything else. You know, you go out in spring. So our average last frost date in Boston is May 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to do it on the average last frost date. You want to do it a few days later than that. So I'd say about May 10th, maybe May 15th, you can start your plants inside. So you might start your plants in March, and then when mid-May comes, put your plants outside and grow them all spring, all summer.
Of next year after you vote in November.
That's right. So this would be this would be spring of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You're growing your plants, maybe start in March 2017, start your plants inside, and then mid-May 2017, put them outside, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger all summer long. You make sure they get plenty of water, but it is a weed, so it grows like crazy. And by September, you're going to have a gigantic plant. And of course, you want to make sure that it's a female, because the males, they don't produce buds the way you want to have buds. You know, it's the female that has the buds.
So I'm not sure what sativa is, but I heard rappers talking about it.
Yeah.
Not that I know, but I've noticed that recent weeds don't have seeds.
Right. That's called sensimilla. Spanish word sense meaning without, and semilla means seeds. So sensimilla means without seeds. And it's just unfertilized.
Sense means without?
Yeah.
Common sense. Without sense. Without.
Well,
that's crazy. It's Spanish, but we still, the Latin, we still use those words. Hey, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's very old technique. I mean, this is a technique that goes back at least 4,000, 5,000 years. People have been doing this.
That was actually in the song too. Sensimilla was in the song.
Sensimilla?
Yeah. The song was like, hey, Rastaman, what do you say? Give me some of your.
Hey! Yo, Bill, you just became the coolest white man in the world. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hug you, Bill. You're so amazing. If you want to get in contact with Bill, please hit him up. Go ahead, give your information one more time.
The website for my business is www.cbdplease.com. And the website for MassCan Normal, again, is www.masscann.org. And MassCan is the political organization. It was a public education organization working to legalize cannabis for all of it.
I wish I had that song.
And my business is just a CBD business that's offering non-psychoactive products for people who need cannabis products for medical purposes.
You're awesome. You're awesome. Big City 101.3 FM. Put your hands together for Bill Downing, Downing.
That's right.
And I swear, if you look up any Globe articles, they bash him like he was the biggest drug dealer in Mexico. Like, I hated reading that article about you and remembering our first interaction when we had you on air. And I have to admit, I thought I was taking a vitamin. I took Ambien instead. And I was in here like, people probably thought I was high the way that interview went. But I'm so glad you came back. After this is all said and done, when it's time for the campaigning of CannaCare, I'd love to be a part. I'd love to pass out flyers. I'd love to inform, because I grew up, my mother's side, my father's side, marijuana wasn't a bad thing. Just like guns, it was always around. Like, we knew about them. We knew how it worked. We knew what it was. For crying out loud, I remember my mother having like Slav or whatever that stuff is called, and using it anywhere and everywhere all of the time. I never thought it was a bad thing.
Right.
So now as an adult, I'm like, well, common sense. Why is it illegal? But yet nicotine is causing cancer and killing people. But yet I have not known one person to do anything except fall asleep after smoking weed.
Yeah. Well, it's illegal for many, many reasons, but one of them is social control. I don't know. I think last time I was on, I mentioned that the ACLU had done a study of arrest records for marijuana, and they came out with the fact that if you're a black person in the United States, your chances of being convicted of a marijuana crime, you're 4 times more likely than a white person to be convicted of a marijuana crime. Even though, you know, black people don't use marijuana more than white people do. I mean, everybody uses marijuana. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, virtually everyone in school used it.
Hey, when we go back to the 80s and the 70s, everybody did everything during that time.
I suppose.
Can I just say, living in Orchard Park, I tested it out one time.
That's it?
I was on top of the roof, and my heart was racing, and I didn't run down. I ran so fast downstairs to my apartment, and I lived in Orchard Park. And I ran in the house and slammed the door. My mother, boy, what's wrong with you? I just looked at her. I was sweating profusely. I didn't know what was going on. And from that day, she was like, "You've been smoking weed, huh?" She knew. She knew. She knew. Yeah, she knew. She knew.
Jeez.
And since then, Bill,
Yeah.
I haven't touched it. I was 16. I haven't
Yeah.
touched it no more.
Well, it's not for everybody.
No.
Some people like it, some people don't. And, you know, THC does make some people anxious, and there's good reasons for it. You know, I mean, usually people feel relatively in control of themselves, and if you get high on THC, you get that feeling, I'm not so much in control of myself anymore, and that can cause a lot of anxiety, you know? But that's one of the things that makes it different than alcohol. Because when people drink booze, they don't become anxious. Like, they don't even realize they're screwed up.
Overconfident.
Yeah,
I can drive.
exactly. And
High people are like, no, we're going to sit here and just watch Scooby-Doo and eat bonbons until I feel better.
Yeah.
And I might fall asleep.
No, you mean Scooby Snacks.
Scooby snacks.
But the same thing with driving. You know, people that are drunk when they drive, they tend to take a lot more risks.
Yeah.
And people who are stoned when they drive, they're thinking to themselves, wow, I'm stoned and I'm trying to drive. And they tend to drive a lot more slowly. In fact, sometimes way too slowly. And that can cause trouble too.
Well, Bill, I thank you. I love you. We come to the top of the hour. Please give your email address and your phone number one more time. And then I have something for you.
All right. Well, for my business, the email address is info@cbdplease.com. And for MassCan purposes, the best email is MassCan, MassCann @Bill Downing, BILLDOWNING.com. Yeah, please join MassCan. Help us with the cause. It's coming up. It's coming. It's like a freight train rolling down the track, and there's nothing's going to stop it. It's coming.
Might as well get on the right side because we about to get on the high side. I love you. I appreciate you. If you missed any of today's show, please head over to mixcloud.com, TAYLAANDRE. I'll make sure I put those stories up for you on the Wake Up with Tayla Andre page on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can just head over to TAYLAANDRE.com and find everything Tayla Andre. I love you. I appreciate you, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. Mwah. Is this it?
Excuse me?
Is this it?
This the song? Yeah, that's it. There he is.
That's right.
Aww, you have gone a whole year, half a year without smoking.
Yeah. I try it every once in a while just to see what happens, but every time I do, I get that. Just like you were talking about,
Man, everything just started getting number inside. I started everything just started like going fast. I'm like, whoa. He started bubbling. I'm like, what's this? No. Gotta go. I haven't touched that stuff since. Boy. I was on the top of the roof at Orchard Park back in the days. I
You were the pigeon's
I
house.
started getting like this and it started shivering. I ran that book down the stairs. I didn't know what was going
Wow.
on. And this is like, oh man, this is like 32 years ago. It's like
Wow.
DJ Sus won the feature presentation. Listen, make sure you wake up with Tayla Andre Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 a.m. on Big City 101.3 FM. Wake up with the Radio Rebel. Politics, news, conspiracies. Wake up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. This is the type of stuff I'm into, all right? Make sure you tune in. Let's go. The champ is here. The champ is here.
Thank you.
The champ is here.
Pleasure to meet you.
Can we take a picture? Hold on, Reggie. Can you take a picture for us? I think my phone got too hot and shut off.
Watching a walk and gun was a January 30th. Your boy Future Bambo, live inside, King Oasis. You don't know, Soul International.
He said, I know Dick just went on.
I'm good, come back.
King Oasis, you don't know, watching a Future Bambo, they're live, January 30th. Man, turn up.
So our show is going to be on Mixcloud, but it's also going to be on YouTube, and I'll send it to you so you can use it.
Link to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great.
So actually, I do this every day, and I forget our YouTube watchers. So do you want to say hi to the YouTubers?
Sure.
Go ahead. They're here now. They're watching.
Hi, this is Bill Downing, along with Tayla, and very happy to be here. Always love seeing Tayla, being on the show, talking about cannabis.
Yes.
And please join us in voting for the legalization of marijuana in November.
Absolutely.
At the polls. And, visit my business's website, cbdplease.com, and go to the MassCan website so you can join MassCan and help us educate the public so that we make sure that cannabis is used for all of its good purposes. Right, Taylor?
Absolutely.
Right on.
Big City 101.3 FM, waking up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. Mwah.